genius sparks, that's what I call them. And we've had many great people on, and we're going to do a lot more. Now, this month we are going to specifically speak about medical issues, answer some questions that a lot of people have about why Christians suffer from serious disease and refuse medical treatment because that they believe God will cure them. Let me just say this from the offset. I'm a believer in God's healing power. Not only have I experienced it, but throughout the Bible, you see miracles taking place. There's some gaps that have been left, and we need to fill those gaps. For instance, when a person mistreats their body for many, many years, gets sick, do they expect God to heal them? Well, of course we do. But how does that affect our relationship with God in terms of the healer? He is the healer, I know, but does he use medicine? I fell down a flight of stairs. First of all, when I was very young, I fell from a roof, and I had a hip problem and was in hospital for 3 months. Eventually, when I was preparing myself, when I was in the army, I found myself going like this. There was pain, very sharp pain going down my back. It continued during my military service, and then when I eventually got married to Jane, I went to a store to buy something. I think it was a gift actually for her. And as I came out of the store, there was oil all over the steps, and I slipped and fell and hit my back. Putting it out incredibly, I had 2 herniated discs developed. Got to the place where I could not stand up straight at all. I was completely bent over. And after 6 weeks of lying on the ground, literally on the ground, taking all kinds of medication, I decided, and believing God, I decided that I would let the doctors take over. A surgeon then removed the problem. It was a huge surgery, especially in 1988. The procedures they have today are a little better than they were then. I have scars down my back from it. When I completed that, done everything I could do while believing God, I experienced very little pain after the surgery, and was a great relief to me, and I was very thankful. About a year later, I was walking in Rome, Italy, and suddenly something happened like that, and my back was out again. Same story. Couldn't walk, couldn't carry anything. Incredible pain. And I was on my way to the United States of America to do a set of meetings for 3 weeks. I'm telling you this because I'm getting to a point. And it got worse and worse and worse. And eventually I was standing like this. I couldn't stand up straight. And I went to a specialist, and he said that you're probably going to have that for the rest of your life, and I couldn't correct it. So when you see some of my old footage from the late 80s and the beginning of the 90s, I sit and speak. And when I stand up like this. You can see it in the pulpit. I don't even release that stuff. Perspiration just pouring down my face from the pain, and then my body being like this. So that happened to me. I felt at that point in time that I deserved, as a Christian and in covenant with God, some divine intervention after I'd done everything I could do. And I had that miracle take place. Today I play tennis, not very well. I do all kinds of exercise. When you see me on a platform, I'm jumping, running around. Everything the doctors told me I would never do again. I'd live my older years, very limited physical manner. I opposed that. What happened? Well, I did everything I could do while believing God, not questioning Him, did the surgeries, walked the way I had to walk, picked up stuff the way I had to pick them, but yet I had this one incident that put it out. It was so bad that I had to cancel the meetings. I was in San Diego area. I'll never forget this, and I have as my witness my wife and the few that were with me at the time. The night before I tried to minister from the pulpit, and I couldn't. And I had to leave because I couldn't stand up straight again. It was completely gone. And the pain was so severe that I crawled out of bed in the hotel room. Crawled. And when I say this, I'm not exaggerating. Jane will bear me up on this. Crawled to the bathroom. Couldn't stand up to brush my teeth because the pain was so bad. I had to sit down and do it. And I said to the pastor at the time, can you find me a good, what do you call it, bone doctor? Not a chiropractor, the surgeon. Orthopedic, thank you, orthopedic surgeon. And he said, I don't know. He said, let's just look in the yellow pages. And he didn't know one. And we found one there. And we went they took me there. And I was literally leaning on and walking in like this. And I eventually went in by myself and sat down, shaking from pain. And he was a Chinese man. He could hardly speak English. And said to me, I'm not giving you anything. And I looked, and I was actually upset with him. He said to me, he looked at me and checked me out. He said, it's very severe. He said, the only thing he said to me, don't even pick up a bottle of milk in the next 24 hours. And I left upset. He said, I'm not giving you. He said, because God is going to heal you. Now, that's an authority figure, first of all. The doctor is an authority figure. Whether we like it or not, when you place yourself into his hands, he has authority over you. He can say to you, you have 3 months to live, and if you don't, the power of those words can affect you. Yeah. And I'm speaking to Dr. Harry now, and some of you know him because I've had him on before. But I want to finish the story before I actually get to him and tell you how wonderful it was to experience a miracle from God, because it was a miracle. I left that doctor's office in such pain. Jane said to me, she sat outside with the pastor, and she said, what's going on? What did he do? I said, he's an idiot. I said, the guy's told me, well, I mean, he's told me God's going to heal me, but I mean, it didn't come to hear that. I'll hear that from a preacher. Well, there were two things that to me were important here. Number one, a specialist said to me, God is going to heal you. I didn't even know if he was a Christian. That was the first. The first issue was an authority figure. Second was a word from God. Went back to my hotel, had some dinner, couldn't stand, had to lie on the floor. And eventually, that night, I got to sleep in the most utmost of pain. And every morning I'd wake up and I'd just move and it'd be like this. So it was that kind of extreme pain. I woke up about 5 o'clock. And I turned like this thinking it's going to hurt. It wasn't hurting. Turned again. I said, this cannot be possible. If you've lived with pain for so long, you recognize it. You know, you move a certain way. Your brain is incredible. I got out slowly thinking, this is just too good to be true. And I stood out of that bed and started shouting. I said, Jane, something has happened. Something has taken place. And to this day, even though I'll have backache, and I'll be very careful not to lift things, I am completely and utterly healed. Now, I'm telling you, my partners, that story because I've experienced it myself. And yet today, I will warn people that do not take care of their bodies, that you are absolutely stop hindering God from helping you if you don't believe that he uses from the earth certain medications to help you. And, of course, I'm opposed to taking a lot of medicine myself. I don't like doing it. But, you know, I live to tell the story today, a healthy life. I played tennis, as I said, but he did intervene. I went for a medical checkup just recently. And, of course, it was one of those where you had to run on the thing and do all that and everything. And they did the not x-rays, but different things, scans and stuff. And the guy looked at me and said, why do you have that long scar on your back? He said, your discs are perfect. And that to me was a testimony, not only coming from mouth, but from medical. Now, I'm saying to encourage you, first of all, but we're going to get down to the practicalities of this today. First of all, welcome. Welcome, Dr. Harry, all the way from the Netherlands. He doesn't practice medicine as much anymore because he's in another field, which is, you've heard of course before, we've We've spoken about his vast understanding of wine and specifically Chateauneuf de Pape, and that's what he does today. But he still, you do practice medicine from time to time, don't you? Okay, and then we have with us today as well our dear friend, Llewellyn Roberts, who is not only an incredible evangelist and an incredible teacher and an incredible pastor, but a family member and a friend. So, and he's always on Jane's case, always about taking care of her body, how we've got to eat, to watch out for certain drugs, and so on. So you've been a great help to us as well. So these people have ministered to us personally. Now we have a few questions. I want to ask the first one, Hari, and you can just talk on as you wish, because one thing will lead to another, and I know you've got a plan. Okay. But what is a hypochondriac?
Hypochondria, actually, it's a psychiatric disorder. When you're hypochondria in a really severe way, you wake up in the morning and you move and you think, oh my God, this is happening. You have the headache. You have complaints of digestive system. Can be everything. And people, they get in mind there is something very serious going on.
So they'll take like a headache as a sign of being a brain tumor.
Yeah, they think the worst.
I've got a few of them living around me. I've got a few of them on staff.
No, I think the problem is that if you do not treat this kind of behavior, because it starts with a behavior already in childhood, and if you do not treat it, get worse and worse.
Let me ask you a question. Like a child, and I hate to interrupt you, but I don't want you to move away from what you just said. A child possibly trying to get attention. Could it start at that?
Yeah, attention and not the right attention and the right answers. Mm-hmm. You know, and the child, children often live in their own world, and they create a kind of virtual world. Mm-hmm. And when something goes wrong in that, you can develop already at a young age hypochondriac behavior.
Yeah. Okay, because I wanted to ask you that because, I know I'm not a hypochondriac. And the only reason I played sick was to get out of school. I found that behavior spill over into my adult life. To when I don't want to do things, I make up a story about being sick. Of course, I don't do that anymore, but I'm just saying. But that is not, I don't think that's hypochondriacism. But
nah, to be honest, I did that too. So.
Okay, so let's start with medicalization. You can perhaps tell us the whole thing and about medical conditions and.
I'm from Europe, and the health care system in Europe is a little different from the United States system. But I discovered that one thing is almost the same in Europe as over here, and I think it costs us, the citizens, really a lot of money, the over-medicalization. So the claiming habit people develop, and it starts, with tiny problems. People are not able to deal with it themselves, and they externalize in a way. They're seeking help in a way, and that on that level they shouldn't go to a doctor, because the problem is when you enter a doctor's room, it is medicalized. It's a medical problem, even when there is nothing going on.
Very good point, that. Very, very good point. So when they enter, when they've made up their mind to go into a doctor's office, then it becomes a medical problem.
It's a kind of confirmation for a problem, even when there is no diagnosis at that time. A doctor will take care of a diagnosis. And that's the strange thing. Then a kind of, process is going on. The doctor will examine maybe does not find anything, does a second test on things, will talk about you, so private issues. And let me tell you, they always find something. And the problem is a doctor thinks in diagnosis, differential diagnosis in a way, okay, this is probably number one, and then you get down, and if this is not the case, then it can be this or that. So a doctor learned to put complaints together and look for a name for it, to label it. And that's, I think, the big problem, that people get labeled wrong in the beginning, so they get boxed. So when you put things in a box and people are just focusing on that.
Well, you know what, let me just to qualify it. Medicalization is the process by which human conditions and problems come to be defined and treated as medical conditions and problems, and thus come under the authority of doctors and other health professionals to study, diagnose, prevent, or treat. Once a condition, this is what Harry's written for me, once a condition is classed as medical, a medical model of disability tends to be used rather than a social model.
Yes.
So let me ask you the question here, Llewellyn, because you've been through, you've been through your own struggles in life, and when the centurion came to Jesus and said to him, "I have a paralyzed servant." He had the diagnosis. There was a hopeless case. He's paralyzed, and said to Jesus, and Jesus said something that I think if anybody had refused this, it would be completely off his head. Jesus Christ in his flesh said to him, "I will come to your house and heal you," and heal him. Made an offer of a lifetime. Everybody wanted Jesus in their home. And he said something that, and I want you to elaborate a little bit on that. He said something amazing. He said, no. He said, I'm a man under authority. And I'm a man of authority. And if I say, go, my soldiers go. If I say, come, they come. He said, so all I'm asking you to do is speak the word, and my servant will be healed. That's an authority issue where he said, we've got the diagnosis. He's paralyzed for life. Now I'm taking away from that authority, and I'm placing it in your hands, under your authority, to speak, and it'll happen. And of course, we know he spoke, and in that hour, that paralysis had left.
But I like what he said. Jesus, the soldier came to Jesus, and he said, "I'm a man under authority. I understand authority." And basically, he was saying to Jesus, "I know you have the authority. All you have to do, if I say to my servant, go, he doesn't question me. He just goes. If I say come, he just comes. He doesn't ask why, where, or how. If I say go, he just goes. I've got to tell him, just go, he'll just go." And so he said, you have the same authority over sickness, over demons and everything else. That's your authority. So if you just say go, disease, it'll go. And that was his faith. But many people aren't there. So many times when sickness comes, and you're weakest, when you're sick, your faith is low. It doesn't matter who you are. When that pain hits your body, when you go to a doctor and he diagnoses and he says to you, listen, you have a viral meningitis, or you have a tumor, or that fear, it doesn't matter how much faith you've got, your heart drops and and it's a shock. And I always believe that you should do what you can do, and God does the impossible.